Okay, so you saw the last video and you see an example of a psychological warfare operation, really a propaganda operation and how it works. Like all the points of information need to speak the same thing, right? They need to send the same message. And you may wonder, okay, how is this possible that they can coordinate all these messages with so many different news organizations? Well, the fact of the matter is there's only 6 organizations in America, 6 companies that control basically everything that you see on the TV, okay? 6 companies that own almost all media. And this is National Amusements, owned by Summer Redstone, and he passed away recently. Then you have the Disney Corporation. You have Time Warner. It's from CNN. And Warner Brothers. And then you have Comcast, NBC, Telemundo, which is a large Spanish network, and Universal. And then you got News Corp. Then you have Sony. Okay, but that's basically it. These are the 6 companies that control basically everything that you're watching on TV. So it's very easy. I mean, I wouldn't say it's very easy, but it's not as hard as it seems to coordinate all these messages. Okay, now let's look at another example of a propaganda campaign. The last one, this is the most recent one. This is about the medicine called hydroxychloroquine. And most of you probably already heard. And some of you may, depending on which news you're watching, you heard that it's a dangerous drug, or you've heard that it's a very effective drug in treating coronavirus patients, especially at the early stage. Now, this campaign is really based on financial motivation because hydroxychloroquine, the dose costs only $10 for a treatment. Okay, and the new doses that they are trying to bring on the market, they're in the thousands of dollars, from $1,000 to, I think another one was close to $2,000, if not more, dollars per dose. So one is little to no profit to the big pharmaceutical companies, and the other has a lot of profit. I mean, thousands of dollars, you do the math. And you may say, okay, so why don't the news media report it? Well, again, they are being coordinated and they're reporting what they're being told, and basically they leave their integrity at the door, you know, in favor of profits, or in other cases, in favor of their ideology, okay? So now let's look at what's going on with hydroxychloroquine. This is from a report from CBN News.
How did a drug known for decades as safe and effective suddenly become dangerous? Hydroxychloroquine is so safe that in several nations it's sold over the counter without a prescription. But the media has started treating hydroxychloroquine like a public health menace. And this pharmaceutical smear campaign began around the time this guy started talking it up.
I'm taking it, hydroxychloroquine. Right now, yeah. A couple of weeks ago, I started taking it. Because I think it's good. I've heard a lot of good stories.
Then came all the news stories about how hydroxychloroquine is somehow risky to take, or that it doesn't work against COVID-19. And when this group of physicians, calling themselves America's frontline doctors, held a press conference in Washington to educate about COVID-19 and tell the truth about hydroxychloroquine, they got the same treatment the media's been giving the drug. Video of their press conference accumulated over 17 million views during the 8 hours it was hosted on Facebook. But when Donald Trump Jr. tweeted it, his Twitter account was restricted for sharing content that may pose a risk to people's health. Then all videos of America's frontline doctors were stripped from Facebook and YouTube, and their website was taken down. An avalanche of negative stories began.
The impact of COVID misinformation, how it's hurting the fight on the front lines.
These experienced licensed physicians were called quacks, funded by dark money, and with USA Today reporting the doctors don't know what they're talking about.
So if you ask me if I expected that, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I don't know what to say to that. You know, I thought I lived in America. You had a bunch of doctors talking literally about science. getting deplatformed. It's outrageous.
The group's spokesperson, Dr. Simone Gold, with over 31 years of experience in the medical field, says she was then let go by a hospital for what it called the embarrassing video.
I'm a board-certified emergency physician. We are pretty hard to come by, and suddenly they don't need me. I mean, it's ridiculous.
And all this over a drug many doctors believe is safer than Tylenol or aspirin.
It works. We've now shown it works, and we're still pouring hatred on this medicine.
The safety and effectiveness of hydroxychloroquine is certainly debatable. So why can't it be debated on social media? Why has a drug long considered by many doctors to be safe become the first politically incorrect medicine?
It's a political drug now, not a medical drug.
Dr. Harvey Rich, a distinguished cancer epidemiologist and professor of public health at Yale, told Fox News The Ingram Angle he believes hydroxychloroquine could save between 75,000 to 100,000 lives, but that it's up against corruption in the medical and pharmaceutical industries.
We're basically fighting a propaganda war against the medical facts.
I think initially the media just hated it because Trump liked it. You know, it fell into category orange man bad.
But hydroxychloroquine could also stand in the way of huge profits. It only cost about $10 a dose. New treatments about to hit the market could cost in the thousands.
The people who benefit from hydroxychloroquine being kept down fall into the following categories. Anyone who has a business interest that competes with hydroxychloroquine, and also politicians and leaders who are invested in keeping Americans in fear.
Dr. Anthony Fauci continues to say hydroxychloroquine doesn't work.
The overwhelming prevailing clinical trials that have looked at the efficacy of hydroxychloroquine have indicated that it is not effective in coronavirus disease.
But a recent Henry Ford Health System study of over 2,500 patients found that hydroxychloroquine worked. And there are far more studies showing hydroxychloroquine works than studies showing it doesn't. But it is primarily a prophylactic. Dr. Gold says it works best to prevent COVID or in the early stages of the disease.
It's essentially a magic bullet, especially if you use it early. Rarely have I seen anything in medicine work so well. It's not working like an antibiotic, taking days. When it works, if you give it early, it works within 24 hours. It's really, really dramatic and it's really fast.
But use of hydroxychloroquine is now limited in 44 states. And state medical boards are reportedly threatening doctors who prescribe it, even though the FDA says the decision should be between a doctor and patient. Whatever.
So that's what is going on. So now, what is being exposed really with this hydroxychloroquine, really the attack on hydroxychloroquine is the coordination of things like Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram, because all of them, and even Google, all of them, they basically take any video, any links to the video promoting hydroxychloroquine, or even if you're talking about that you took hydroxychloroquine and you got healed by it, they'll remove your video. Okay? And let me show you something just so you know exactly how deceptive this is. Now, this is information from the CDC. You can see the CDC logo here. This is them promoting, this has been up probably for years now. They may not even realize that it's still up. That hydroxychloroquine, they actually recommend it to American citizens that travel to areas where malaria is, where there are malaria mosquitoes, basically. So they're really recommending hydroxychloroquine, okay, as a safe drug. And this says right here, who can take hydroxychloroquine? Hydroxychloroquine can be prescribed to adults and children of all ages. It can also be safely taken by pregnant women and nursing mothers. Again, this is from the CDC, okay? I mean, it's just amazing that the information they're bombarding you with, it's really a whole deception, and they're hiding all the good of hydroxychloroquine. So all they want you to get is how bad it is, how dangerous it could be, how it doesn't work, and all that stuff. So again, this is a great example of a propaganda campaign. It's really psychological warfare, okay? Because some people, when you talk to them, They say, no, hydroxychloroquine is dangerous, be careful, because that's what they're hearing. They trust the media, and the media really abuses the trust that people have in them, and that's how they deceive the people, okay? So let's move on to the next. We already looked at peaceful protest, so let's look at an example from 2016. This was from the election campaign of then candidate Donald Trump. And if some of you may remember, all the media was talking about his rallies, was how violent his rallies were. But was that the truth? And I'm going to show you how this was exposed, and the media had to finally report on what was actually going on.
There is a narrative that supporters at Trump rallies are violent and dangerous, looking to beat up protesters who don't agree with them. But our undercover investigation into the Hillary Clinton Democratic Party machine reveals a very different story.
If you're there and you're protesting and you do these actions, you will be attacked at Trump rallies. That's what we...
This is Scott Fogle. He is the National Field Director for Americans United for Change. He used to work for People for the American Way, an organization funded by George Soros. He also has his own company called the Fogle Group. He is one of the dark operatives for the Clinton campaign.
We are contracted directly with the DNC and the campaign, both.
Yeah.
I am contracted to him, but I answer to the head of special events for the DNC and the head of the special events and political for the campaign.
The campaign pays DNC, DNC pays Democracy Partners pays the Fogle Group, the Fogle Group goes and executes the shit on the ground. The thing that we have to watch is making sure there's a double blind between the actual campaign and the actual DNC and what we're doing. There's a double blind there. So that they can plausibly deny that they knew anything about it. We have a group of people in Vegas. We have a group of people in Colorado. We have a group of people in Minneapolis.
So I'm basically Deputy Rapid Response Director for the DNC for all things Trump on the ground.
This guy is Aaron Black. He works full-time for Creamer at Democracy Partners. He directs the spontaneous protests at Trump and Pence events.
Nobody's really supposed to know about me. So the Chicago protest, when they shut all that was us. It was more him than me, but none of this is supposed to come back to us because we want it coming from people. We don't want it to come from the party.
We have to be really careful because what we don't need is for it to show up on CNN that the DNC paid for X people to, that's not going to happen.
Zulema Rodriguez and Aaron Black are bragging about a protest last March that turned extremely violent and led the Trump campaign to cancel a huge rally. Fights broke out between protesters and Trump supporters, and 2 Chicago police officers were injured. Based on our reporting, the event was not spontaneous. Remember this woman? Her name is Shirley Teeter. She is a 69-year-old sufferer of COPD. According to numerous news stories at the time, she was assaulted at a Trump rally in North Carolina by Trump supporter Richard Campbell. The media played her story across the country for days.
She was one of our activists.
She was one of your activists
who had been trained up to bird dogs.
Ill people that we pay to do shit. Make no mistake. Over the last 20 years, I've paid off a few homeless guys to do some crazy stuff, and I've also taken them for dinner, and I've also made sure they had a hotel and a shower, and I've put them in a program. Like, I've done that, but the reality is a lot of, especially in our union guys, a lot of our union guys, they'll do whatever you want. Yeah. They're rock and roll.
As we continue to release more videos, you must hold the mainstream media to account to further investigate what we've uncovered.
All right, so you see what's going on. So what the narrative was at that time was that Trump rallies are violent, okay? But what they were not telling you is that those instigating the violence were actually paid operatives by the DNC. So in other words, they go in there, attack somebody, assault somebody, and as soon as that person retaliates back, then the cameras are on that person. So that all you see is the violence directed as against the instigators. Understand what I'm saying? So it's the same thing that I showed you in the last video, what's going on in Portland and Seattle. So the media is only interested in the reaction from those that they're instigating against, okay? So they can keep the narrative going that these are the violent guys, we are the good guys. Basically, the leftists, anarchists, socialists, whatever you want to call them. Right? So this is very dangerous because people really get hurt during that. I know some guy had to go to the hospital, receive stitches, and he was basically just there, listening to a speech. And this is very dangerous stuff. This is dark money involved, and this is a whole operation. Again, it's a propaganda campaign and a psychological warfare being waged on the American people. Now, the last one I'm going to show you is from the Covington kids. This was a bus trip from the Covington High School, I believe it was, and they were going to Washington for a protest march. It's really a peaceful protest march, and they were, I think it was right to life or something against abortion. That's why they were there. It was like a school trip, basically with a protest march, to teach those kids, I guess, how to protest and to use your rights and all that type of stuff, right? Now, this is when that happened. So the media caught one of these guys and basically portrayed him as a racist and evil, like a monster, basically. And he didn't do anything. Okay, I mean, this story is so incredible that it's almost beyond belief. But what ended up happening, he hired a lawyer and he sued all the major news organizations that basically smeared his name on national TV. And he won 2 settlements, one against CNN, and the other one I think is the Washington Post, and there's still more legal lawsuits going on against the other networks. Okay, so let's take a look at that one.
On January 18th, 2019, in Washington, D.C., the very first Indigenous Peoples March was scheduled at the same time as the 47th Annual March for Life. Students from Kentucky's all-boy Covington Catholic High School were instructed to meet on the stairs of the Lincoln Memorial to await their bus home. Many of the boys were wearing Make America Great Again hats, which were acceptable attire for the pro-life event they had just attended. A few yards away were 5 black men who identified as Hebrew Israelites. This known hate group was already preaching racial slurs at Indigenous marchers.
You're not supposed to worship eagles, buffaloes,
that's
rams,
right.
All types of animals.
That's right.
This is the reason why the Lord took away your land. Indian means savage. You know where that name came from? You know where that name came from? It came from the so-called white man. It does not mean savage.
After nearly an hour of enduring the verbal attack, the boys asked their chaperone if they could perform one of their pep rally chants.
We are hearing from a Native American elder and Vietnam War veteran speaking to CNN after a disturbing viral video shows a group of teens harassing and mocking him in the nation's capital.
The Native elder was identified as Nathan Phillips, a member of the Omaha Nation and a Vietnam vet.
Phillips describes the tense moments now being replayed over and over again online when a young man got right in his face. Watch.
That was when they surrounded us. And that's when I realized the dangerous situation I was in. And I couldn't go left, I couldn't go right, we couldn't go back without running into this mob. When that young man blocked my retreat, he put himself in front of me. So I stopped and I thought, okay, I'm gonna take another step, but he wouldn't move. I took another step, he wouldn't move.
You feel you were blocked?
Oh, I was blocked.
You mentioned that the youth kept chanting, build the wall. Now, this is astounding, given the fact that you, a Native American, and yet they're chanting, build the wall.
It makes little sense to angrily chant, build the wall, to a population with literally 0 illegal immigrants who were here long before we were.
After watching every video posted from that day from every possible angle, I've yet to see or hear one Covington kid utter those words. I did, however, find a clip of the Israelites saying this.
Well, look at these dirty ass crackers.
Build that wall.
Can't stand in the damn sun for 5 minutes.
That wall. Why you don't build the damn wall?
So you want to make America great, because for you white people, go back to Europe where you came from. This is not your land.
As one of the Native men began to debate with one of the students, keep your eyes on Nick Sandmann. This is a critical moment that was omitted from the mainstream narrative.
Get the f out of my face with that shit.
Hey, it's not bullshit.
It's proven, man. Come on.
It appears as though Nick is trying to hush his schoolmates to show more respect to Mr. Phillips. And that was that. Their bus arrived and the students went on their way. Mr. Phillips did not advance up the stairs, but instead turned towards his people and celebrated their victory.
We won, Grandpa! We fucking won, Grandpa!
There has been some question about the nature of your military service, and this is a good chance to clear it up. Some have said that you were a Vietnam veteran. I don't believe you have said that. What exactly is the nature of your service?
What I've always said is I've never stepped foot in South Vietnam.
I'm a Vietnam vet. I served in the Marine Corps 72 to 76. I don't talk much about my Vietnam times.
When I come home, those times, I got spit on, actually spit on. Called a baby killer.
Little blonde-haired, blue-eyed hippie girl come walking up to me one night and just spit on me, Called me a baby killer. I feel bad because I beat up her boyfriend. I really do feel bad about that, She hurt my feelings.
So to be clear, you did not serve overseas.
I don't know how much clearer can that be?
At one point early on, it was rumored that they were chanting "Build the Wall," but no one has surfaced any evidence of that whatsoever.
Well, that's what I heard from the Native American elder when he was talking about it in a video. He said,
I heard them saying, build that wall, build that wall.
It isn't audible on the video clips, I think, that are out there, but did you hear that?
I did hear that. You can hear him saying, build that wall.
People that are supposed to be adults were saying things like, this is the face of white patriarchy, this 16-year-old kid.
Or what Reza Aslan said.
Yeah, or Reza Aslan said, have you ever seen a more punchable face? Kathy Griffin was saying, I need names, shame him, dox him. How do these people not understand the implications of that?
I blame that f***ing kid. What a little smirk face.
The center of the firestorm, what critics characterize as a smirk on Sandmann's face.
People have judged me based off one expression. I see it as a smile saying that you won't get any further reaction of aggression.
It's going to get too long, but you see the gist of it. I'll leave a link to this whole video underneath my video, so you can watch it for yourself. But you see, it's obvious that there's really nothing going on of what the media was saying was going on. I mean, nothing even close to that, right? But still, it was a narrative, and a lot of people reacted to it on social media, getting angry at this. I mean, it's just, to me, it's amazing, but I know what is going on, but still, it's just amazing how people keep falling for it, because I guess we're so easy to be manipulated. I don't know what it is, but anyway. So what happened in this case? CNN got sued and the Washington Post got sued, and they both basically lost their case. CNN settled a lawsuit with Nick Sandmann stemming from viral video controversy. Okay, so that's the headline. It is just amazing. So, video controversy. Now, of course, it's really from deceptive video editing. That's really what the controversy is. But anyway, so CNN never really made a public statement on air. It just made a statement on their blog, which hardly anybody reads. Okay, and the Washington Post. CNN settled a lawsuit with Nick Sandmann stemming from viral video controversy. And here, the Washington Post settled a lawsuit with Nick Sandmann after viral March of Life controversy. Okay, so now the March for Life is controversial, right? So that's how the headline reads. You see how the deception is just amazing, what is going on. But anyway, that is what is going on. So, and really what should be happening, so the other news station, they should be condemning this, you know, like CNN or Washington Post, but none of them made any big issue of it because they're all in on creating the same narrative. Again, in order for a propaganda campaign to work, everybody has to speak the same message, okay? So that is what's going on. Okay, so I'm going to stop there here. On the next video, I'm going to show you how to bypass this propaganda really machine, which is also called the mainstream media, okay? And it's going to be just as important as the last two videos that I showed you, but just so you can really guard yourself from being manipulated by the news media. Okay, this is Deacon American. Thank you for watching. Share this video with your friends. And I'll see you on the next video. And again, this is the Hidden War in Plain Sight.